So the DualSense Edge has been out for a year now. I have one, but I want to be honest. I have one because PlayStation Canada sent me one shortly after launch. I've had mine for almost a year now. My initial review of it wasn't bad. I focused on what you could do with it and how I could use it during my review. I used it then for the review, but not everyday use at the time. I tested all the features, put the controller through the ringer, and saw what made it tick. Well, newsflash here, that isn't how we use controllers. We play games with them and use them every time we play in different ways, playing different types of games. Not every game will need all the bells and whistles the DualSense Edge offers. So we'll reflect on the year with the DualSense Edge and let you know if it's worth it. Do all the bells and whistles truly matter? Do I use the back pedals? Have I replaced the thumbsticks? Do I use it wired or wirelessly? Do I remap the buttons? And finally, has it become my everyday controller? Coming in at $269.99 Canadian, I think all of these questions are fair to ask, and I will answer them all for you, but money doesn't grow on trees. Since the DualSense Edge launched, PlayStation has launched a lot more hardware and has asked you, the customer, for more money than any year I can remember. I will be doing a lot more of these as the year comes around on all this hardware that has come out in the last year. I'm looking at you, extremely expensive PSVR 2. I have a bone to pick with you. What did they promise us when they launched? What was the marketing behind to want us make us buy it? I think a lot had to do with the Elite Series controllers from Xbox to make Sony finally give us a premium controller. I purchased an Elite Series 2 controller and often used it when it was released, remapping any button and even functions to the back paddles. It's a game changer. The long battery life and the ability to swap the sticks and recharge the controller are great. Those are functions I use the most, but I did return it 3 separate times due to stick drift. I guess third time's a charm. The Xbox controller needed a rechargeable battery, as I'm not a fan of changing the batteries. So Xbox improved on their controller, but did Sony improve on theirs? The DualSense controller is one of the best gaming controllers recently that has released a newer version with a longer battery life. I have never noticed any issues with my DualSense battery life, but I use a charging station, and as a gaming dad, I don't have much time for extended play sessions. I do, however, notice the battery life of my DualSense Edge. I find it drains rather quickly and have had to switch to my regular DualSense occasionally or turn the haptics off to prolong the use. I only turn it off playing games that I feel the haptics don't add to the experience, like a lot of my sports games. Haptic feedback in the DualSense and the DualSense Edge is one of my favorite controller features and truly makes the PS5 stand out when choosing where to play third-party games. I keep the haptics on when even playing Call of Duty, and I feel it adds much more to the enjoyment of playing the game. Skilled players say turn it off because it distracts you and slows down the reaction time, but I have some news for them. I don't care because it makes it more enjoyable. You can have the DualSense Edge plugged in while using it, and it does come with a cable lock so that it wouldn't come unplugged during the use, but I've never used it. If anyone can tell me that they've used it, that has this controller, please give me a reason to do so. If you're into tournament gaming, I could see a use for it, but not for everyday use. Having my controller wired for an extended playtime is an option, but not for me. Having the access to latch it to a protective case is a nice touch though, so you can recharge the controller while it's in the case. The adjustable triggers lengths, I say, are the most used feature I've used on the DualSense Edge. If I'm playing any first-person shooter or even a racing sim, I change the lengths on the triggers, so I barely have to touch them to pull the trigger. My reflexes aren't what they used to be, but this gives me a slight advantage regarding my reaction time when playing any multiplayer shooters. I feel it single-handedly is why I'm playing a lot of shooters and live service games that revolve around reaction time with triggers. I haven't played this much Call of Duty in years, and I don't feel like I'm getting destroyed when playing against other people online. I've had a hard time playing any shooters as I've gotten older, so hats off to the DualSense Edge for making it fun again. The mappable buttons are a feature I do like, but wish it could be better. I prefer to use the smaller paddles when it comes, as it's a more comfortable feel and it's quicker to use. When I'm playing a game, I don't want to take my thumbs off the sticks, and I can map the buttons to the back paddles and make gaming easier. On the Elite Series 2 though, you can map any function to the back buttons, including the share and capture button. You can still move the share button to the back paddles on the DualSense Edge, but you can't change the function. So one paddle is video and one is caption, and one can take a photo. I wish they allowed me to reprogram the buttons as you can on the Elite Series 2. I regularly look to remap my buttons for any game I play, and I put some time in because it makes it a more enjoyable experience. You can use the 2 function buttons under the sticks to save button mapping setups so you can use them regularly. Replacing the sticks is a breeze, and replacement sticks aren't too expensive. You can pick them up for around $25 Canadian. If you have stick drift on a regular DualSense, you're buying a new controller to fix it. I've had stick drift twice, and it can become costly. I've had my PS5 since launch, and I've had stick drift on 2 DualSense controllers already. Let's do some math here. I've had to replace 2 DualSense controllers due to stick drift at the replacement cost of $89 Canadian a piece since the launch of my PS5. The PS5 comes with 1 controller, so I also purchased one of those controllers, which was $89. That puts my cost at $267 Canadian, roughly the same as a DualSense Edge. This is why I've been solely using my DualSense Edge for gaming, as I know if I can counter stick drift, I can replace the stick and not interrupt my gaming session. Regarding changing the sticks caps, I haven't used this function often. I try it out, but I went back to the original thumbsticks it comes with. I understand this is something many gamers want, but it hasn't mattered too much to me. It's nice to have though. The case it comes with is exceptionally sturdy, and I have traveled with it a couple times and been surprised how many times I've used it. I had to put it in my luggage and found no damage to the case or the controller. I want to mention that the smaller paddles don't fit well back in the case you switch to in the longer ones. I tend to use the longer paddles when playing racing games, and when I switch them out, the smaller ones don't stay in their slots well in the case. The weight of the DualSense Edge when compared to the DualSense is noticeable, but for me, it's to be expected, as you have more parts inside the controller. The weight isn't a big deal though, but the textured grips on the handles are a welcome touch. For now, the DualSense Edge only comes in 1 color profile, which is black and white, but my hope for the future is that the PlayStation releases other colors for the DualSense Edge. There is a very in-depth settings menu for the DualSense Edge in the PS5 that you can access under accessories and select controller settings. There, you can create custom profiles, even adjust the input sensitivity of your stick's movements. I have found many excellent YouTube videos detailing great settings for playing different games, like Call of Duty, that have helped out a ton. At the start of the review, I asked many questions that I feel I've answered, but the big one is, has it become my everyday controller? I have to say yes it has, and I wouldn't consider myself a pro gamer or anything like that. I like to play video games, but the controller features helped me in my day-to-day gaming. Knowing that I can easily replace the sticks if they break is also extremely comforting. I didn't think I would need these features when gaming, as I mostly play story-driven games, but I've grown accustomed to changing my settings, as I mentioned, gotten back into playing games like Call of Duty, which the DualSense Edge shines when playing. I have played a lot of NHL 24 as well and find the responsiveness to the sticks to be better, and my reaction time is better when using the DualSense Edge. If you use your PS5 daily to play games, this is a no-brainer of a purchase because in the long run, you get a better gaming experience. You also won't have to fork over money on any other controller if you get stick drift. If you don't game regularly, you must ask yourselves if this purchase is worth it. It is by far the best controller Sony makes for the PS5 and my go-to. Let me know if you have one and what you think. And if I haven't answered all the questions that you might need answering in this review, let me know in the comments. This has been Court from 3 Dads and a Console, re-reviewing the DualSense Edge.